Story 1. The Haunting Halloween Party. The crisp autumn air held a promise of Halloween night, and the town of Hollow Ridge buzzed with excitement. The annual Halloween party at the old Sinclair mansion was the highlight of the season, a tradition that had endured for generations. Emily had received an exclusive invitation, and she couldn't resist the allure of the grand event. As she arrived at the mansion, she was immediately captivated by its eerie beauty. The crumbling structure stood as a testament to a bygone era, shrouded in legends and mysteries that sent shivers down the spines of the townsfolk. Inside, the atmosphere was electric. People were adorned in costumes ranging from classic monsters to pop culture icons. Emily's heart raced with anticipation as she mingled with the eclectic crowd. There were masked revelers, masquerading as ghosts, goblins, and creatures of the night. A live band played eerie melodies, which added a special touch to the haunting atmosphere. However, as the night wore on, she began to notice something unsettling. The guests seemed oddly familiar, as if she had met them before in her darkest dreams. Their smiles held an unsettling darkness beneath the masks, and their diabolical laughter agitated her to her core. She brushed off her unease, attributing it to the eeriness of the mansion. As the clock struck midnight, a sinister twist unfolded. The host, a tall figure shrouded in darkness, emerged from the shadows. His voice echoed through the grand hall as he declared a sinister game of hide and seek. The rules were simple. Hide anywhere within the mansion, and the last person found would be crowned the winner. Emily's heart pounded as she hid in a dusty, cobweb-covered closet. The minutes stretched into an eternity, and the silence was broken only by her own labored breathing. Just when she thought she couldn't bear it any longer, she heard footsteps approaching. The closet door creaked open, revealing a sinister figure in a tattered cloak. Emily's breath caught in her throat as the figure slowly reached out to her. Before she could react, the figure whispered, "You should never have come here, Emily." The voice was hauntingly familiar, sending a shiver down her spine. With a sudden burst of panic, Emily pushed past the figure and fled the closet. She raced through the mansion, her footsteps echoing in the dimly lit hallways. As she reached the front door, she was met with a horrifying sight. The guests, all wearing masks of her own face, stood in a menacing circle, blocking her escape route. In a gut-wrenching twist, Emily realized that the partygoers were not in costume at all. They were her doppelgangers, her darkest fears personified. As they closed in on her, their faces contorted into grotesque expressions, and Emily's screams echoed through the haunted mansion, blending with the sinister laughter that filled the air. As Emily's consciousness faded, she realized the true horror of the mansion. It was a place where her inner demons had manifested, where her deepest fears had taken on physical form. Her fate was sealed within those cursed walls, and she became just another specter, haunting the Sinclair mansion for all eternity. Story 2. The Unwelcome Trick-or-Treaters. For as long as Sarah could remember, her house had been a neighborhood favorite for trick-or-treating. Every Halloween, children and parents alike would flock to her doorstep for candy, marveling at her elaborate decorations. This year, however, Halloween night took an eerie turn. As the sun set and the first trick-or-treaters arrived, Sarah noticed that their costumes were unusually lifelike. The children's faces were pale, their eyes devoid of emotion. They extended their hands, not for candy, but for something more sinister. With trembling hands, Sarah handed them the treats and watched as they shuffled away in silence. Throughout the evening, more and more eerie children arrived, all with the same unnerving demeanor. Sarah's unease grew with each encounter. When she finally mustered the courage to ask one of the parents about the strange children, they stared at her blankly and muttered, "We don't have any children." As the night wore on, the number of unnerving visitors multiplied. Sarah couldn't explain where they were coming from, and fear gnawed at her insides. She decided to call the police, but when she picked up the phone, there was only static on the line. Panic set in as she realized that she was trapped, alone with these uncanny trick-or-treaters. In a chilling twist, the children began to chant in unison, their voices a haunting melody. Sarah stumbled backward, her heart pounding and her vision blurred. The world around her warped and twisted as the children's chants grew louder. She was pulled into a nightmarish realm where the line between reality and the supernatural was blurred. Sarah's horrific ordeal continued as the relentless children tormented her, and she realized that there was no escape from their malevolent grasp. The night ended with a blood-curdling scream echoing through her once welcoming home, but the story didn't end there. Every Halloween night, the children returned to Sarah's house, seeking new victims to join their eerie ranks, a macabre tradition that would continue to haunt the town for generations to come. Story 3. The Forbidden Pumpkin Patch. On the outskirts of Blackwood Forest, there stood a forlorn pumpkin patch that the locals whispered about in hushed tones. It was said that the pumpkins there were cursed, and anyone who dared to enter the patch on Halloween night would face unspeakable horrors. Timothy, a curious teenager, couldn't resist the lure of the forbidden patch as the moon hung low in the sky, casting eerie shadows over the pumpkin patch. Timothy ventured into the darkness. The moonlight revealed grotesque, misshapen pumpkins that seemed to leer at him. Ignoring the ominous warnings, he picked one up, and the moment his fingers touched the pumpkin's cold, rough skin, a chilling wind swept through the patch. The pumpkins around him began to emit an eerie, otherworldly glow, and Timothy felt an overwhelming sense of dread, desperate to escape. He tried to leave, but the path that had led him in was nowhere to be found. Panic set in as he realized he was trapped in the cursed patch. As the night wore on, the pumpkins came to life, their twisted faces contorting into malicious grins. They whispered taunts and threats, their voices a cacophony of malevolence. Timothy's sanity began to unravel as he realized he was not alone. The spirits of those who had ventured into the patch before him roamed the rows of pumpkins, their tormented souls forever trapped. In a shocking twist, Timothy saw the faces of his loved ones among the twisted pumpkins. Their eyes bore into his soul, accusing him of his reckless curiosity. The pumpkins closed in on him, their ghostly fingers reaching out to claim his soul. As the first rays of dawn broke through the darkness, the cursed pumpkin patch devoured Timothy, and his agonized screams echoed through the forest. The legend of the Forbidden Patch endured, a chilling reminder of the horrors that lurked beneath the Halloween moon. Years passed, and the pumpkin patch became a place of dread, a forbidden ground shunned by the villagers. But on each Halloween night, the pumpkins came to life once more, seeking new victims to join their macabre collection. The curse of the pumpkin patch lived on, a dark and haunting legacy. The townsfolk could only pray that the curse would one day be broken, and the souls trapped within the pumpkins would find peace. But until that day came, Blackwood Forest remained a place where the line between the living and the dead blurred every Halloween night.